What's up, guys? It's your boy Hokage Puya here, and round 3 of AFC qualifying has officially finished today. All groups A, B, and C are finalized. Not as much drama as I expected. Things still went down. We're here, like always, to break it down, see what happened throughout the Asian Confederation as all the teams in Asia aim and gun to try and make it to the first expanded version of the World Cup next year in the United States. We're going to break it down like we always do with my beautiful, beautiful Google Slides. It's your boy Hokage. Let's get into it. And before we get into the results of each group, how each group is standing, who has automatically qualified, who has made it to the playoffs, I think it's actually important for us to go to the wiki, and it's going to be important for us to actually break down how the rest of qualifying for AFC is going to go down, because I was under the assumption that playoffs was going to be a completely different format. I was misinformed, and I'm sure there's other people out there that are actually misinformed as well and don't actually understand how the rest of Asian for World Cup qualifying is going to proceed after the end of round 3, because there is going to be a round 4, a round 5, and an intercontinental playoff. I think it's a good idea to just quickly let's go to the Wikipedia page and see how this is actually going to play out. So this is the third round. A little bit of spoiler, but this is how all the groups ended. Groups A, B, and C, top 2 automatically qualify. The third and fourth place teams from each group go into the fourth round, as you see indicated on the table. Now, the fourth round, the 6 teams that made it in those playoff positions will be drawn into 2 groups of 3. The teams in each group will play each other. The first place, the team that finishes in first place in each group in round 4, as you see here, will gain automatic qualification to the World Cup. And then if you could see in these fourth round groups, the second place team in each fourth round group will then qualify for the fifth round. The 2 second place teams, reading here in the fifth round, right here in the fifth round section, the 2 second placed teams in each group from the fourth round will play against each other over 2 legs in November of this year to determine which team advances to the Interconfederation playoffs. So the fifth round, whoever wins here doesn't actually automatically qualify for the World Cup. They will go into this right here, the Interconfederation playoff, which is the fifth round winner from AFC will join 1 team each from the African Federation, South America, and the Oceania Football Confederation, and 2 teams from CONCACAF in the Interconfederation playoffs. The teams will be ranked according to their FIFA Men's World Ranking, with the 4 lowest ranked teams playing in 2 single elimination matches. The winners of those single elimination matches will then meet the 2 highest ranked teams out of the 6 in another set of single elimination matches, with the winners of these matches qualifying for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. So 6 teams will be in the Interconfederation playoffs. The bottom 4 teams, based on their FIFA ranking, will play each other. The winners of those 2 games will play the 2 highest ranked teams that did not play those elimination games. And so 2 teams from the Interconfederation playoffs will qualify for the World Cup in the end. So I thought that was important to just sit here, talk a little, and actually understand how the rest of qualifying is going to look like for some of these teams in the Asian Confederation. But now that we've got that cleared up, let's get to the serious business, guys. Let's get to what we're actually here for, and that is for World Cup qualifying round 3 breakdown, like we always do on this channel. Let me get bigger on the screen so you can see my beautiful face. I'm not shaving. In fact, guys, if you're a returning viewer, do I look better shaved? Do I look better unshaved with a bit of stubble? Let me know how ugly I am on a scale of 1 to 4. And yeah, let's just go. Group A. So, like always, results on the left of the screen and how the group stands at the bottom of the screen. Obviously, since this is the end of round 3 qualifying, this is the final standings of how everything played out. Let's just look at the group standings first of all. Iran, Uzbekistan both qualify for the World Cup automatically. Iran, regular World Cup They're a regular at the World Cups now these days. They're strong. They're always going to be at the World Cup now. And Uzbekistan, huge for Uzbekistan, making their first World Cup appearance with a young group of guys coming through with a load of experience in the team. Again, this is a team that's hard to beat. It's very hard to beat. They only lost once in round 3 qualifying, and this is an interesting team into the 2026 World Cup because Uzbekistan, they're not going to change the way they play for other teams. No matter who they play at the World Cup next year, they're going to sit back, they're going to defend, they're going to make life a living hell for you on the field, and they will try to counter, score on you, and get, do damage that way. So I'm very happy Uzbekistan make their first World Cup. Congratulations. And I think it's an interesting style coming out of the AFC to see at the World Cup and see how they might trouble teams from Africa, South America, Europe, North America. So I'm excited to see Uzbekistan at the World Cup. And then finishing in third and fourth place in those playoff positions is UAE and Qatar, with Kyrgyzstan and North Korea couldn't get over the line. They didn't really have much for the group in the end, and they crash out. So UAE and Qatar are the first two teams in the playoff positions, and they will play the other playoff teams and go through that whole fourth round, fifth round intercontinental or interconfederation playoff route to try to get to the World Cup. So it's going to be a tough road for them. But it is what it is. Iran and Uzbekistan automatically qualify. Let's go through what happened in the game. So, if you saw my preview video, this was a key game for UAE here. They needed to win against Uzbekistan, and I think they will feel a little bit frustrated with themselves that they didn't put more pressure on Uzbekistan, because if they won this game, Uzbekistan would have been under a lot more pressure in this Qatar game. I really felt Uzbekistan drew that game, and by drawing the game, Uzbekistan basically confirmed their spot at the World Cup, and they played in a very relaxed manner today against Qatar, winning 3-0. So UAE really, if they want to really put as much pressure as they could on Uzbekistan to hopefully cause them to slip up, they had to win in this game against Uzbekistan. And to be honest, they had the chances. They had a couple chances in this game to get a 1-0, 2-0, 2-1 win against the Uzbeks, but they didn't take it, and they're going to have to go to the playoff route, and they're going to be thinking, what if? What if Uzbekistan was under pressure? Would they have had a worse performance against Qatar in their second game? I guess they'll never know. With Uzbekistan, they're professional. They defended. They kept the clean sheet. They got the draw, and they secured themselves a spot at the World Cup next year. So again, congratulations to them. North Korea and Kyrgyzstan, really a low-stakes game here. The only thing on the line was Kyrgyzstan trying to maintain pressure on Qatar to try and get into the playoff spots. And, if you watch my preview video again, Kyrgyzstan, they had to win this game against North Korea. And in the end, they drew 2-2. And by doing so, they basically screwed themselves from having any chance at making it into the playoffs. And on top of that, the embarrassing 2-2 draw to North Korea, Qatar ended up beating an injury-ridden Iran side, and Iran side playing a very experimental lineup against them at home. Qatar ended up getting the win 1-0. A little bit of a controversial game. Almoz Ali Almoz Ali should have gone a red card. They should have gone a red card. He straight up elbowed someone in the face, UFC MMA style, and he did not get a red. I have no idea. And then Milad Mohammadi ended up getting a red card for Iran later in the game. Momentum shifted. Qatar took the lead. And from there, it was kind of a back and forth game, kind of heated. And Qatar ended up getting the 3 points and basically securing themselves. Securing themselves that they will at least be in the playoff position. So they a little sigh of relief there for the Qataris. And then in the second game, again, UAE, when they needed to win the most and put pressure on Uzbekistan, they drew both of their games this time around. So not good enough for UAE. They fully deserve to be in the playoff positions, and they have to go now against the other third and fourth place teams to try and salvage something and get to the World Cup, because they are strong. They're a strong team. They have a good opportunity to do so. But I'm sure they're going to be disappointed in themselves coming away with only 2 draws in these games. And then Uzbekistan already qualified for the World Cup, relaxed. Qatar, they have no chance at automatically qualifying, and ended up doing a rare 3-0 win for the Uzbeks, scoring 3 goals just to end their qualifying on a high note, qualifying their first World Cup. And then Iran today playing North Korea, they washed them. It should have been 4-5-6-0. Taremi had a good game, goal and assist for him. So yeah, that kind of wraps up Group A. Um, not that much of an eventful group, and on the last match day, not many things shifted. UAE and Kyrgyzstan kind of disappointing themselves big time in those first games in the group to try and give themselves a good position to either snag automatic qualification or, in Kyrgyzstan's case, snag that fourth place spot and try to put pressure on Qatar to get that uh, playoff spot. But they both screwed up, and if you screw up, you get punished. You get punished, and like I say, man, in World Cup qualifying, it's high stakes, and if you lose high stakes on the line, you're gonna feel bad about it. And now they got to go past, UAE and Qatar are gonna have to go through playoff qualifying to try and get to the World Cup. Um, so yeah, congrats to Uzbekistan making another World Cup. Iran, they secured their World Cup position last time out, so they had the chance here to play an experimental lineup, play new guys, give people chances, and they came away with a good 3-0 win against North Korea and a sketchy loss to Qatar in the first game. So that's Group A. Congrats again, Uzbekistan. Let's move on to Group B. Where is Group B? Hold on, guys. Where is Group B? They disappeared. There is Group B. Sorry, I had a little bit of a technical issue with my professional Google slides. But anyway, Group B. Bottom of let's look at the table. This is how it ends. South Korea getting the qualification. They actually didn't end up losing, weirdly, in this round of qualifying, although they weren't really that impressive for most of the campaign here in round 3. But it is what it is. They didn't lose any games, so I guess that's a good sign for them. They haven't lost in 10 games in qualifying. And Jordan, another team like Uzbekistan, getting their first spot at a World Cup, fully deserved. Again, since Asia Cup last year. Just such an exciting team. Probably after Japan, the most exciting team to watch in Asia. They attack hard. They try to score goals. They try to suffocate you, and they're pretty damn good at it. So Jordan qualifying for the first World Cup, big congratulations. Obviously, with Jordan automatically qualifying, that means Iraq had to fall into the playoff positions on 15 points, just 1 point behind Jordan, and then Oman securing that fourth place spot in qualifying. And unfortunately for Palestine and Kuwait, they don't advance. I will say, and we'll talk about it right now, Oman should really not be in the playoff position. It should really be Palestine in that fourth place spot. We'll talk about what happened in the Palestine Oman game, but it's pretty disgraceful what happened. It's shocking what happened at the end of the game. Palestinian hearts, heartbreak. Heartbreak for Palestine. A super unfair reffing call against them blows their World Cup hopes. And I honestly felt so bad for them, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's talk about what happened in the games. Jordan, with a statement 3-0 win against Oman to secure themselves that World Cup qualification spot. Or not secure themselves. They still had work to do in the second game. Actually, no, they didn't, because they played Iraq. They were 4 points ahead of Iraq. My bad. So the 3-0 win against Oman, they secured their spot at the 2026 World Cup. So again, huge congratulations. And Olwan with a hat trick for Jordan. Very impressive. He's going to be a guy that we have to watch out for at the World Cup next year. He could be a surprise player because, with a team like Uzbekistan, they're going to try to defend, and really it's going to be down to if they could frustrate teams and try to somehow muster up an attack and score goals at the World Cup. Jordan is a different case where they can probably go up against the lower ranked South American teams, the African teams, the North American teams, and they could score goals against these nations. And even the lower ranked European teams, they can do damage the way they play. So Jordan, I'm very excited for them next year. Not that I'm not excited about Uzbekistan at World Cup 2026, but I think Jordan is going to be an interesting one to see how their style translates to the rest of the world, because we don't really get to see that. And hopefully they could line up some friendlies before the World Cup to test themselves against African teams, South American teams, European teams, North American teams. That would be key for them. But the way they attack, I'm more optimistic about their chances of qualifying and going to the knockout stages next year in the United States. Other game of the group on the first day, South Korea getting the 2-0 win against Iraq. This was a good performance from them, 2-0. I think in round 3 qualifying, this 2-0 win against Iraq, an Iraq team that has to win and try to keep pressure on Jordan, it was a good performance. It was one of South Korea's better performances in round 3 qualifying, and they'll be happy that they get the clean sheet away from home and a good victory there. And then Palestine getting the 2-0 win, putting pressure on Oman as they were supposed to do to try and get that 4th place playoff spot, which would be fought for in their second game of the round against Oman. We'll get to that. South Korea in their second game, wiping Kuwait off the map. Kuwait, they just didn't have, it's an achievement for them to get to round 3 qualifying. It's an achievement for Kuwait to get to round 3 qualifying. Unfortunately for them, they just didn't have the ballers. They didn't have the will or anything, the fight to ever make it a conversation about them potentially even making at least a playoff spot in this group. So they were kind of an easy 3 points or an easy point in the group. They didn't win a single game, 5 draws, 5 losses. So respect to Kuwait for making it this far, but they just did not have much for this group. They were the weakest team. And then the second game, Jordan versus Iraq, it didn't really matter. Jordan lose 1-0 at home to Iraq, but they already qualified. Iraq with a win would only come within a point of Jordan. So they basically were confirmed for the playoff positions either way. So kind of a meaningless game. And then in the, probably the biggest game of this group this round, Palestine versus Oman. I mean, who would have thought, 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago when we started round 3 qualifying that this would be a pivotal game in the group? And it looked like 95th, 96th minute, guys, Palestine was going to beat Oman, get a historic win, and trump them and get to the playoff positions and keep the World Cup hopes alive, given, taking into fact everything that's going on in their country, everything that their people are going through. This was going to be a huge moment for Palestine to keep their World Cup hopes alive. But what happens? I forget which player was from Oman, but 97th minute, 7 minutes into extra time, a horrible decision from a referee to give a penalty on one of the most blatant dives I've ever seen. One of the most blatant dives I've ever seen. This idiot referee, and guys, I have nothing against Oman. I have no favorites or anything to choose from. But that blatant dive in such a pivotal moment, just seconds from the game being over, and you call such a blatant dive like that to give Oman the penalty, they bury the penalty, and Palestine come away from the game with just a draw, getting officially knocked out, and their World Cup dreams getting crushed. It's brutal. It's brutal. And that referee has to look at himself in the mirror and realize what a massive mistake he made, because in no universe, no Marvel multiverse anywhere would that be a penalty in my books, the penalty Oman got. So absolutely harsh for Palestine. I saw that video. I didn't watch the game, but I saw the video, I saw the highlights, and bro, my heart broke. My heart broke because realistically, Disney, say what you want about Disney Plus and all that, Palestine, all the things going through, if they were able to just get to the playoffs and somehow just keep the dream alive, get to round 5, maybe get to the Interconfederation playoff, keep the dream alive. But it's taken away from them because of a bozo moment from the ref and a dive from Oman. Undeserved penalty, undeserved draw. Palestine, in my opinion, should have been the team to finish 4th place here. But like I said, guys, World Cup qualifying, people think losing at the World Cup is brutal. A lot of brutal things happen in World Cup qualifying, and this has got to be one of the most brutal things, most heartbreaking things I've seen in years in World Cup qualifying. In years. So horrible call from the ref, crazy moment. Oman saved by the ref, and they'll go on to playoffs with Iraq joining UAE and Qatar in round 4 of AFC qualifying. So heartbreaking, but it is what it is, man. I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it, but it just sucks. You don't like to see injustices like that. But yeah, Group B, that's how it finishes. South Korea, congrats to Jordan, first World Cup, and good luck to good luck to Iraq and undeservingly Oman in playoffs. Good luck to them. And then finally, guys, Group C, the big group: Japan, Australia, Saudi, Indonesia, China, Bahrain. Looking at the group, Japan coasted. Yes, they lost to Australia. We'll talk about it, but they coasted. Look at this, guys. 30 goals scored, 3 conceded. That's disgusting from Japan. 23 points, 7 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. They were clearly the best team here. Australia, after starting off roughly in this group, rebounded, finishing second place, 5 wins, 4 draws, 1 loss only as well. Same amount of losses as Japan. So they were a hard team to beat in this group. They finish off with 19 points, 9 goal difference. And then your playoff teams end up being Saudi Arabia and Indonesia pretty deservingly. I think China, if they just had the form they had these last couple rounds of qualifying, if they had that earlier on in round 3 qualifying, I think they could have competed more with Indonesia. They're just 3 points off. They could have competed more with Indonesia, dude, to try and get to the playoff position. But, in some of the games where they lost, they couldn't get the draw. And Indonesia, they got the same amount. China and Indonesia both got 3 wins, but Indonesia got some big points in their draws. The draw against Saudi Arabia was a huge one for them early on in round 3 qualifying. So that's how the group finished. The games, Australia won 1-0 by beating Japan 1-0. That basically confirmed them to automatically qualify for the World Cup. If they lost to Japan, I thought they would lose to Japan. I didn't kind of expect this, but if you look at the team sheet for Japan, they played a very experimental B/C team in this Australia game. So the fact that Australia probably only won 1-0 shows how strong Japan is, that they played such a weak, young team, and they still only lost 1-0 to a giant in Asia like Australia. So Japan is scary. They're going to be a dark horse at the World Cup, in my opinion, next year. Indonesia getting a big win against China, 1-0, to put some distance between them and the Chinese to try and secure themselves at least that playoff position. Saudi Arabia getting a big win against Bahrain to also keep themselves in the playoff contention. But their hopes at for automatic qualification kind of went into dust once Australia beat Japan. If Japan beat Australia, then this Saudi Arabia-Australia game in Saudi would have been huge to try to get automatic qualification. But Australia got the win against Japan, so we didn't get that big boy high-stakes matchup. In the second games of this round, Japan playing a slightly stronger team, absolutely destroying Indonesia. I mean, Indonesia were awful. You'd expect with all the players they've recruited of Indonesian heritage or descent, the kids that are all playing it from the Netherlands, bringing Justin Kluivert in for that Dutch connection, you'd think they'd improve against Japan, but again, they got wiped by them 6-0. I was trying to support the Indonesian people, kind of get behind the hype train to see if they could push for automatic qualification. But I think in the end, after 10 games in round 3 qualifying, Indonesian fans themselves would admit that they deserve to be in the playoffs. They don't deserve to automatically qualify for the World Cup. So I think it's a fair statement to say that. And then China getting a 1-0 win, kind of last hurrah, beating Bahrain. And then, yeah, this game ultimately ended up being meaningless, but Australia ended up still beating Saudi Arabia away from home 2-1. So good win for them. Japan, congrats. Another World Cup for them. Australia, another World Cup for them. And Saudi Arabia, probably one of the stronger teams in terms of the players they have, the money that's backing that team, the money that backs their domestic league. They should get through the playoffs. They should coast if they're serious, or if once Renard will have more time to kind of establish himself with the Saudi team again, they should be probably the favorites to qualify from the playoffs. But given their form in round 3, they just, nothing is guaranteed. If you're Saudi out there, shout out to my boy Zir, one of my Saudi Bayern fan. Don't be confident about playoffs because this form was abysmal. 3 wins, 4 draws, 3 losses. Not too different from Indonesia. Only finishing 1 point above Indonesia, 13 points to Indonesia's 12. With the amount of money that has gone out, the amount of money that's been invested in their domestic league, you'd expect that to translate to better performances, better player improvement for the Saudi guys that play in the Saudi Pro League. But that doesn't seem to be the case. So interesting. Maybe we need to look into that more. I don't know. That'd be if someone on YouTube can do a video essay on that, see what's going on in Saudi more. But I'm kind of surprised and disappointed in Saudi Arabia this round 3 qualifying run. But they should be one of the top dogs in the playoffs, and they should get to the World Cup. They should. But again, nothing's ever guaranteed in this game. So round 3 qualifying, it's done just like that. Went by fast. It went by fast, and you guys know this year in 2025 has been going by so quickly. I'm telling you, we're gonna blink. You're gonna in a couple of it'll feel like in just a couple of sleeps, the World Cup will be a week away, and we're gonna be excited for another summer of the greatest tournament, the greatest competition in all of sports. So congrats to all the teams that automatically qualified for the World Cup: Japan, Australia, South Korea, Jordan, Iran, Uzbekistan, the automatic qualification spots representing the AFC, and then good luck to UAE, Qatar, Iraq, Oman, and Saudi Arabia and Indonesia in the round 4, round 5, and subsequent, interconfederation playoff or whatever. And good luck to you guys. Hope you make the World Cup. It's been real. Another breakdown video. If you look at my preview video, if things went a little differently in some games, this could have been a much more dramatic end to round 3 qualifying. But the way certain games panned out in the first matches kind of died things down. For example, Kyrgyzstan kind of dropping the ball, UAE dropping the ball, Australia getting the big win against Japan, Jordan getting the big win as well in their first game against Oman 3-0. So nothing too crazy happened. I think most of the groups kind of stayed the same way they were before these two games. I think the only big disappointment, big drama of this round 3 qualifying, the end of round 3 qualifying, is that horrendous refereeing call at the end of the Oman Palestine game today. I mean, genuinely, man, that was a horrible, horrible call. A horrible, horrible call against people that have endured a lot. Not just last 2 years, but for decades now. So it's harsh. That's the world, man. The world will chew you up and spit you out, and you just got to keep coming back, improving, and keep looking forward. So for Palestine, who knows what the future holds for them as a country, but maybe in 4 years' time, some players will come through and they could get over the line and get to the next World Cup. But you never know. You never know. So it's been your boy Hokage, another AFC review video, World Cup qualifying review video in the books. Let me know what you think in the comments. And yeah, just let me. I like learning about your country. So if there's information I'm missing, reasons as to why your team didn't perform well, this and that, let me know, dude. I want to know. I want to know. Because as a guy who works a job and everything, sometimes, guys, I can't put in hours and hours of research into all the teams. So I try my best to break it down, try to be unbiased, and give you guys that breakdown that I like to do at the end of these World Cup qualifying games whenever they come around. So congrats to the teams that qualified. Good luck to the teams going into playoffs. You're going to need it. Again, World Cup qualifying in the AFC is the highest stakes, is the toughest. It's the wild, wild west. It's been your boy Hokage Puya. I'll see you guys in the next one. Tune in tomorrow for my Iran breaking down with my boy Darren, the 2 Iran games. But yeah, until then, until future videos, it's been nice talking to you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.